Hello and welcome to the Paper Boys podcast. I'm JJ Smith.
And I'm Zach Nally.
We're reporters with the Carteret County News-Times. We're joined in studio today by two-thirds of the Bleacher Seats boys, Jimmy Paylor and Cecil Lilly. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, pleasure.
It's good to be here.
Rodney Kemp's not being able to be with us today. The Bleacher Seats boys, this is the fourth time.
Wow.
How about that? Regulars.
Yeah.
Just to remind people, the Bleacher Seats was on for 18 years, 400 shows on Time Warner Cable Access back in the day.
Yeah, wow.
And now you're guest starring roles on after being your own show. Now you're guest starring on the Paper Boys,
which is your demotion,
which is a lesser product than the Bleacher Seats back in the day.
We probably got more episodes than Mike and Mike, or maybe Chris Berman. Maybe I don't know. Who knows?
How about it? Y'all's up there. All right, so we've got a lot of sports to cover in a little bit of time. December, January, two of the best months of the sports calendar. I think you got everything but baseball. All three of the four professional sports are going. You got college basketball, you got college baseball. We'll start on a sour note. Got a couple of Tar Heel fans here in the studio with us today, and the Heels are not looking great here in the college basketball season early on, are they?
No, not at all. Me and Cecil were talking about it, of course, and I heard it last night, too, while we watched them play Alabama and stink it up. This is the worst start they've had in 20 years. Cecil reminded me today that worst start since Matt Daugherty coached them in the early 2000s. And I don't understand what is going on, because they seem to be talented. Now, they don't have a big man. It's amazing how much Armando Bacot obviously made a difference. Even when his last year we thought was a dying year, but he still was obviously a centerpiece or a rock for him with the big man play. But Hubert's catching a lot of heat, Cecil, right now.
Well, he's going to catch some. Carolina just fired a Hall of Fame football coach, so I feel real safe there. I mentioned Bacot. One of the things big guys do is they give you an automatic ball reversal. When they pop up high, you can kick the ball to them, and you can kick it opposite, and you get nice looks at the basket. Per R.J. Davis last year got some really nice looks and knocked them down. He's struggling this year without the presence inside. He was only 5 of 21 last night, and Carolina shot 17% from three-point line. Alabama was like 40% or so. Alabama had 18 assists. You're passing the basketball real good, and probably not getting back and playing good defense when you give up that many assists. That would be one thing I would say that Coach Davis's teams have not been stellar defensively. Even if you go back, Jimmy and I were talking to the national championship game when they had a big lead at halftime, and then played one of the worst second halves, I think, in the NCAA history to lose the NCAA championship. So, Matt Daugherty, he finished 8-20 that year. I think that was 01-02 maybe.
He didn't come back.
He was not. He was 4-12 in the conference. And
Cecil, is you talk about playing defense? Is that something that can be coached up, or is that just kids not wanting to play defense, or is it maybe a little bit of both?
Well, what I think is, and again, that's not real valuable, but in my opinion, they play too much amateur AAU ball, and that is all run up and down the court and shoot and score. They don't.
So
play
you're
much
saying
defense.
the defense fundamentals is not being taught at a lower level, therefore it kind of
not being taught, not being emphasized. That's one thing you can do. Not everybody can shoot the basketball. And not everybody can rebound great, but you can play defense.
Everybody can play defense.
You can move your feet.
You can hustle.
You can hustle and play hard and learn technique and be smart. And you can play defense, but you got to want to play defense. It's got to be a priority to you, and they grow up, and it's not.
Yeah. Wow.
Dean Smith, when he used to coach all-star games with high school kids, he would play man-to-man, and if your man scored on you twice, you're out. Somebody else came in for you. So, but that's not anymore. And that three-point shot changes things. One thing that's too, I think, defensively, teams don't do now, and as a coach, I surely believe that you've got to be solid with a man-to-man defense. You have got to have that as your base, but play some different kind of defenses. Mix things up a little bit. Throw some zones in there. Do some half-court traps. Press a little bit after I made free throw or something.
Well, it's hard.
Everybody plays man-to-man, and they run that little weave out front, and boom, 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 and then. Defense goes to sleep, and after a while, somebody shoot a three.
See, but it's hard to play. It's hard to play a little press defense if you're not making a lot of baskets. Your press defense comes on made baskets, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not shooting the ball well, it's hard. It's hard to play press
You're not
defense.
getting rebounds.
Right? Yeah. So
that
it compounds the whole situation. Yeah.
And so now rebounding is different now than it was. If you even in the NBA, if you look back in the day, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, they would get 20 or 25 rebounds again, but they didn't have a 3-point shot.
Right.
Shots were taken in close. Shots that are taken in close, they
go-
rebound in close. So the big 7-footers would get rebounded. Now, when you shoot a 3-pointer and you miss it, the ball rebounds long, and a long rebound is the first pass on a fast break. So it's hard for
Do you think if they short up these issues, they would be okay even without the post presence they clearly don't have?
Well, in basketball, if you can shoot it, if your shots are going in, you look real good.
Sure.
It seems like everything looks good. And if you're not shooting the ball, it's like Cadeau last night had one point.
Yeah.
And missed
And
all of his three
and
points.
Seth Trimble didn't play. He didn't play that great. And he first year, man, what a pleasant surprise. He was very athletic and scoring the basketball. And now, like I said last night, he just didn't play well at all.
Well, and part of that not playing well is Nate Oates. Alabama, they play defense.
Yeah.
I mean, they get after you. They are a physical. They play it. It's a point of emphasis there, and they play defense. They had 6 guys. Alabama did in double figures last night. That's really good.
Big physical guys.
Yes, yeah,
Very strong, big.
So.
Well, from a fan perspective, it's definitely been hard because not only are they not playing well, but they just don't look like, without that, again, go back to that post position, that's been a big part of the identity of that team for the last however many years.
Forever.
Tyler Hansborough, you mentioned or Sean May. Kennedy Meek, Tyler Zeller, John Henson, Armando Bacot last year. So, I mean, that's sort of, when I look for a UNC team, that's what I expect to see.
Sure.
There's no one there right now.
Well, with Dean Smith and Roy Williams, they always played with a high post and a low post. They used 2 post players, and they were a significant part of the offense, as well as scoring. But again, they could pass. You get the ball, and when you get the basketball in the middle of the court, that is a great place to have it. You can go either way with it, either side, or you can go high-low. When was the last time you saw a high-low post exchange in a kind of college where looks up, gets over here, pops low, and it's a high-low thing? You don't see that much. You see a spread. They spread 4 out on the perimeter, and the post player is used as a screener sometimes, not as a big scorer.
Y'all mentioned that's the worst start since the 2001-2002 season. They started off 3-5 that year, ended up 8-20. They're 4-4 now. Is this an 8-20 year, or do they get it turned around?
I don't think so. I really don't. I think they figure out some things. One, which I'm extremely glad about. Of course, you can't prove it. So let's talk about that. I thought the ACC was back as far as basketball, but man, the SEC has got it going on. The SEC. I was telling Cecil on the way over here. Every sport. At least the 3 major sports: football, basketball, and baseball. SEC dominates. Is that all because of money?
I was going to say dollar bills.
Is that what it is? They
think
just can get the players there and
so.
get them there.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was watching a couple of weeks ago. I believe I was watching Georgia, and I forget who, but I mean, there's 95,000 people
A football game.
at
Yeah.
the football game watching that.
And you name a school, and it's the same thing, right?
Same,
LSU,
every school.
Alabama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at what we've seen during the football season with the changes that are happening in college sports right now. There's a shift happening, certainly in football, where any team could beat any team. There's teams that are legacy teams that have fallen out. I mean, there are teams that have come. I mean, why SMU
the portal and NIL has kind of flattened the.
Sure.
Well,
Indiana. I
even
mean,
how about Vanderbilt?
Sure.
Vanderbilt's even won some football
They
games.
beat Alabama.
And look, they beat a
so
couple.
I expect to see something similar in basketball right now. I mean, maybe it take a few years to catch up. I don't know, but there's going to be some, unranked Michigan State beating North Carolina. Maybe that's not so extreme. With the way things currently are.
Clemson.
Sure.
Beating Kentucky.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's what I'll say.
Third straight?
Carolina might be able to even things up or whatever from short. I don't know how good the ACC is, so they might be able to pound on some teams in the ACC. But then, like I said, Clemson, maybe Clemson must be pretty good. Pittsburgh has got beaten badly the last couple of games, I think, but they've got a pretty good team.
And they were in the top 20, and like I
Yeah.
said, but then last night got killed.
Well, also maybe we can pump the brakes a little bit because Carolina's lost 4 games, but they lost to number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They lost
Tough
to number
schedule.
10. They lost to number 4.
Yeah.
You lost to a Michigan State team that's probably going to be pretty good. Of
Yeah.
your 4 losses, 2 of them were by 3 points.
Okay.
So
Well,
maybe the sky's not falling.
Yeah, those kind of losses are usually what end up elevating you at the end of the year when your record doesn't
but us
match.
being typical Carolina fans,
We're used to seeing.
We want them to be 7-1 now
That's
instead
right.
of 4-4,
That's
or
right.
or whatever. But
It would probably help if R.J. Davis wasn't shooting 24% from the 3-point line.
You're chucking him up there, isn't he?
that would help a lot.
Especially when he shot almost 40% last year from 3-point line.
Yeah. I asked Cecil about that, and I know we got to get off Carolina basketball, but I asked Cecil about that, and what can it be? Is it mechanics or just how can a good shooter? And obviously he's a good shooter. We can't take that away from him. How can a good shooter not shoot good? It's got to be mechanics or something, don't it, Cecil?
Mental. I don't know.
Just no confidence now?
I don't know yet. Usually, shooting a basketball is not like hitting a basketball. I mean, hitting a baseball. You can be a great hitter and go in a slump and go 1 for 20 and don't have a clue and striking out every other time. Good shooters can shoot.
They can still shoot.
They can still shoot. So I don't know, a confidence thing. I don't know. The makeup of the team reminds me of a little bit when Love.
Oh yeah, Caleb Love.
Was at Carolina. It doesn't seem like they're having a real good time playing the game.
That wasn't too far. That wasn't
Right
too
now.
far removed.
No, he's still playing.
Yeah, and
For Arizona.
that's when R.J. Davis was there with Love, and they said that Love was the cancer with R.J. Davis. So yeah, that's interesting that you say that.
I'm not saying that they have a player like Love that was a problem. I'm just saying that this group is having kind of a hard time with the freshmen, and there's some talented freshmen, and trying to get their minutes worked in and trying to get everything good. I mean, Jackson started last night, I believe, as freshman, and he did a pretty commendable job. So it's going to take a while. Everybody fills their role and plays. And in this day and age, it's hard to coach because I got Zach. I recruited him, and you're going to play and whatever. Well, Zach plays a few games. He doesn't do very good.
Yeah.
I set Zach on the bench and I play Jimmy, and Zach comes in and says I'm transferring.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, and we're different sport, totally different situation, but like sometimes maybe that helps a little bit if you stick around and learn from what you've been benched. And you look at someone like Bryce Young in the NFL who had clearly lost his confidence, had lost his way, took a seat, looked at the game from a different perspective, and has come back stronger than ever. So maybe the reactivity of the way it's set up in college sports right now doesn't help when players go into slumps. So.
Jimmy mentioned the ACC not looking spectacular in the ACC-SEC Challenge. They went 2-14 versus the SEC. That's not good. In the ACC-SEC Challenge. And how about for overall this season? The SEC is 26-3 versus the ACC.
Yeah.
In basketball. That ain't football.
No,
That's basketball.
26-0 probably for him. And like I said, and Clemson beat a good Kentucky team. Now Duke looked for real.
I was going to say,
Duke looked for real.
What do we think about the Blue Devils so far?
You talk about confidence. The freshman Evans. You hear so much about Cooper Flagg with Duke, but the kid Evans last night for Duke that come in with I think he had 18 in the first half, and he hadn't played in the last 2 games.
No.
Hadn't played at all in the last, and then maybe got a couple minutes in the game before the last 2. But you talking about confidence, Cecil? No, he could have he was not going to miss last night.
He was feeling good. He was feeling real good the first half.
Pretty good about it.
He did. But Cooper Flagg, he has been, to me, he has been as advertised.
I was going to say, he's lived up to the hype, hasn't he?
First time I saw him, I was like, wow. One of the things that impresses me is that he's really good rebounder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, when the ball flies out loose, he comes out of nowhere, and jumps and gets
rare
it.
For a young player, right?
And yes, and he can make difficult shots.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't had hit wide open jumpers. He could score.
And plays defense.
And he plays
And
defense.
I'll tell you,
and he can pass the basketball.
That's what I was going to say, Cecil.
And he's 17 years old.
Right?
I tell you what I love about him is the fact that he distributes the basketball.
Yes.
I mean, he's not selfish at all. He gets the ball to the open guys instead of forcing stuff. He's fun to watch, no doubt.
He was getting criticism for that Kentucky game, the end of the Kansas game.
Sure, yeah.
So people were like, dude, he's 17 years old.
He's 17 years old.
He's barely been driving.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Wow.
Less than a year.
Settle
a
down.
year.
It's
Yeah,
like,
pump the brakes.
Yeah, a couple turnovers late in a big game versus the number 1 team or the 20th team in the country, or whatever. Yeah, maybe he'll get
Pump the
used
brakes
to it.
because he's still learning how to do that.
That's a good point.
Shoot.
We talk about Carolina's big men, and Duke. Their weakness, as I see now, is their point guards. As a Foster and Treese Proctor. Proctor's not really a point guard. He likes to shoot it. He's more of a two guard. So now they didn't start Foster last night. They started a transfer that came in, and his name escapes me right now. But he's played well, and he played well last night to start the game. So, you take a combination of Carolina and Duke and put them together, you would have a really good team.
Duke's kind of like Carolina. They've played a monster schedule. They've lost 2 games, but they were both by 3 points. One to Kentucky, one to Kansas.
Yeah.
So the Wolfpack last night looked pretty good versus Texas, I thought.
Yeah.
Much better than they did versus BYU a couple of games ago. Went down to the buzzer. That's a Texas team that's not ranked, but they've only got 1 loss. So maybe some encouraging things for the Wolfpack last night.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like I said, that was kind of the feeling. I always base the ACC on the Carolina teams. If Carolina, Duke, State, Wake Forest are good, I feel like the ACC is going to be okay. So with State start, that's kind of where I was leaning, that the ACC was maybe back a little bit. But like I said, State has taken a couple losses in the last couple games. But again, Texas is well coached. Texas, again, they're SEC or no, the Big 12. They're the SEC now, right?
Yeah, they're SEC,
now.
Yeah.
So Texas in the SEC again, and plenty of money, obviously, and able to get good players there. So they're going to be in the mix at the end as well.
Yeah, we can be optimistic because this as we were doing the show, it's just like the first week of December. So it's December, January, February.
Sky's falling already. Right?
Yeah, so it's a while till March, and teams will look different, and players will take different
Plus,
roles.
it probably takes longer these days, right, Cecil, with the transfer portal and freshmen and
first year playing with different guys. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and I think with the transfer portal, I think people or players or again, they're not looking to stay 4 years. They're looking to make a name.
That's right.
And if they can't, they're probably going to move on. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that sounds reasonable.
Okay. You mentioned a huge win by Clemson, beating a Kentucky team that was undefeated. Clemson's 8-1. Florida State 7-2. Pittsburgh, that Cecil mentioned, they're 18th in the country. They're 7-2. SMU 7-2. Stanford 7-2. A lot of teams with just 2 losses in the ACC. So it's not. It feels bad because every time you turn on the TV, ACC team's losing.
Yeah.
But the top half looks pretty strong, and Duke,
Well,
Carolina,
it's just when you're used to a certain level.
Right. Yeah. What's happened to SMU?
Someone's recruiting.
Somebody's doing something right
They
there.
invited them to the ACC, I guess.
The ACC, the invite with them coming to the ACC has obviously helped SMU a lot.
Yeah.
So that's
Jimmy, you mentioned, or we both have mentioned Isaiah Evans. One of the things I love so far about this ACC season is you got Isaiah Evans at Duke, who's a Fayetteville kid.
Yeah.
You got Drake Powell at Carolina, who's a Pittsburgh kid. You got Dontrez Styles at State, who's a Kinston kid. They also got the Fayetteville kid and Trey Parker. They got a Rockingham kid and Paul McNeil. A lot of local guys, and it's cool to have those.
It is.
In the big time, big three.
You know who Evans reminds me a lot of? Brandon Ingram from Kinston.
Mm.
He looks a lot like Brandon Ingram, tall, lanky, and can shoot it. And yeah, he reminds me a lot of Brandon Ingram.
And he's still shooting it.
And he's
with,
still
with,
shooting
the, with
it.
the Pelicans.
With
I believe
Pelicans,
he's
yeah,
with the
yeah,
Pelicans.
yeah.
I thought we might could get excited about the Pirates. They were 7-1 and looked like they were going to have something going this year, and then they go down to Wilmington. Oh, well, they hosted Wilmington and
Got beat
pretty bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe that
Yeah.
no need to get excited.
Yeah. I don't.
Jeez, that's all I gotta
If we're
say
going
about
to get
that.
excited about the Pirates, it probably ain't going to be about basketball. It might be about something else.
Well, we're down in the mouth about basketball, but obviously, for some perspective, we realize we'll wait and it'll get better. The one thing we can be down in the mouth about with the ACC is football. Not a great year for the ACC. Not a great year for the in-state teams. If you can go east to west, you got ECU fired their coach. Go to the middle of the state, Carolina fired their coach. Go to the western part of the state, Appalachian State just fired their coach. I think a lot of Wolfpack fans will probably be happy if they fired their coach.
Yeah, I think he stays. I do think Doran stays. But yeah, I was surprised about App State.
Me
firing.
too.
I was really surprised about that.
They don't play around there in Boone, do they? You have one bad year.
One bad year, and you're
Yeah.
done. The Mac Bryan situation. This is just a personal opinion. I think Mac brought a lot of that, the firing on himself. I think he was asked to resign, from what I understand.
That's a scuttlebutt, right?
And he was asked to resign and didn't want to for whatever reason, and so they said, okay, well, you're not want to resign, we're going to fire you. So there you go.
Well,
I thought it was weird that they fired him and let him coach another game.
That was a little bit
weird.
unusual, I thought. And also, Bubba Cunningham made it a point to mention that on the payout, that probably $15 million, $5 million for the last 3 years of his contract, that would not be paid out of any state money that went to the school. That would be paid out of the athletic funds that it had. So it's only again get back in dealing with nil money, the name, image, and license. In the past, you have boosters, okay, and they have some influence or whatever.
Absolutely.
I don't think they have influence like these money people do now, who are not necessarily they're supporters or whatever, they're fans. But it's like, I'll tell you what, if you don't fire JJ, you're not getting any of my
Absolutely.
money, my nil money or whatever. So that kind of, I mean, buyouts now. Schools think nothing about buyouts.
Well, I think Mac said after the state game he didn't mind so much getting let go. He didn't like the way he was let go.
Correct. Yeah.
And he said, and Coach Brankin, he's really good to listen to talk. You know, he worked on ESPN some, but he said if we'd have just had a joint press conference and let's address it, but you know, don't back me in a corner, kind of deal or whatever. Because I'm sure. I mean, it's hard not to like him.
Sure.
I mean,
well,
remember what he did to Carolina. I mean,
why he's did there, yeah.
The football program was miserable. I felt sorry for him when he went there. I didn't know anything. And who was the coach before Mike Bryan?
Larry Fedora.
Thank you.
Larry Fedora.
In between.
Fedora,
Yeah.
He left things that were miserable or whatever. So,
but you know, he left things miserable, like you said. But Larry Fedora, his last year at Carolina, had the same record that Mac Bryan's got this year.
right?
Yeah. So.
I'm saying it's a rough year in state football programs is something you could probably record and just replay it every year. So
Rinse and repeat.
how about this now? Since 2000, I was looking at this last night. So we got perfect 25 years in this century. How many times do you think ECU has finished the year in the AP Top 25 poll in the last 25 years?
Twice.
I'm gonna say. Look, I've been a season ticket holder for feel like 25 years, and I can't remember. Maybe once.
0.
Okay, I was gonna say 0.
How many times do you think Carolina's finished in the top 25 in the last 25 years?
At least once, if not twice.
Twice.
Okay.
How about state?
I'll say
Twice.
state
3
4
times.
4 times.
5 times.
5 times.
Oh.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How many times has Duke done it?
None.
Once.
Once.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many times has Wake Forest done it?
Never. Well, Wake
No,
was
there's
good a couple
there
years
was a
ago. Yeah,
couple.
Wake
Yeah.
was good a couple
Maybe
years ago.
2.
2.
Okay, yeah.
So that's 1, 2, 3. That's 5 programs, 25 years apiece. So that's 125 seasons of football. That's 10 seasons finishing in the top 25.
Well,
Top 25. Wow.
We're not good at football in this state.
that's good.
We're just not good. How many coaches do you think those 5 programs have had since 2000?
So 5, I would say 25.
Wow, 23.
23, yeah.
Twice as many coaches as has finished in the top 25.
Well, East Carolina since 2025 has had they've had
They've had 2 just this year, right?
Yeah, they've had 6 or 7. Yeah.
The conference that ECU is in, the American Athletic Conference, they must have set a record this year for firing coaches within the conference. I mean,
Right.
it's like at least half the coaches have been fired. I mean, like during the season, like well, if I had one, that makes going.
Well, what's our thoughts on Mike Houston getting fired and Blake Harrell, the interim coach, getting the full-time gig?
So I wanted Mike Houston to succeed badly. I thought he was the right guy for the program at the time. I went down to the Birmingham Bowl and he was just really good for the with the crowd. He very very likable, very fan favorite. But I hope that we don't have false illusions with Harold coming in because we played a couple teams that are not real good. So he come in and got 2 wins.
Yeah, that 4-game winning streak was not against the powerhouses of the world, was it?
Yeah, he come in and got a few wins, but I'm not sure that they were quality wins. But it does seem that the kids are playing harder. Here's what I love. Here's what I love when the athletic director at East Carolina announced that Blake Harrell had the job. I love that his players love that he got that promotion. That makes me feel okay. Maybe they did pick the right guy.
Okay.
When the players really got behind him. But I don't know. What's your opinion?
Well, a couple of things come to mind. One thing, timing is a lot. When Blake Harrell got the job, the quarterback got healthy, and so I think Garcia was the quarterback at the beginning of the season, and then they replaced with this transfer from Michigan, I believe, who had been
Michigan State, I think.
Michigan, and he had played some quarterback in Michigan. He had a wrist injury. His wrist got well enough that he could play, and that he took care of the football, and that made a big difference in the offense. As far as from being a head coach and being an assistant coach, I've talking to some of the players from ECU, and they was talking well, Coach Hudson was like he was all business, and Blake Harrell was more like laid back and whatever.
Friend. He was more friendly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of difference being a head coach and being an assistant coach. I mean, that's it's hard to be your buddy. Now we'll see. Blake Harrell has never been a head coach. We'll see how much a buddy he is. Once he has to start making big time decisions about who's going to play and who's not going to play and whatever. But it's a lot easier to be the buddy when you're an assistant than it is when you're the head guy.
That's a good point. Had they ever said what kind of contract Harold got? Was it? I've heard 4 or 5 years. That now, if he got 4 or 5 years, that would surprise me. Why wouldn't he have? Why wouldn't they offered him a 1-year deal? To be sure, he would have taken it.
Yeah, again, he's never been a head coach.
Never been a head coach.
So that's almost in. If you look back at East Carolina football, it has been a problem ever since whoever that athletic director was fired.
Ruffin
McNeil.
Yeah.
Ruffin was a perfect fit, doing a good job.
Loved the school.
Yeah, loved the school and whatever.
Well, and that's it right there. So, and I'm gonna quote something that Macy O'Donnell, one of our sports reporters here, wrote in a column a few weeks ago, which was that how many coaches would have looked at this prospective job as a stepping stone, whereas Harrell wants to be here,
Right,
long term. Whether or not he is there long term, obviously, based on his performance, but maybe that plays a role where he's like, this is not just something on the way to the next. I want to be here. I bleed purple and gold or whatnot. So.
I'm a firm believer in that too. I mean, I think that to turn a program around, Dallas Cowboys. We will talk about them. I hope we don't have to talk about them. But I think to turn a program around, I think you've got to get a guy in there that loves the program.
Yeah.
That is in love with East Carolina,
100%.
in love with Carolina, and they bleed purple and gold, or they bleed go heels, or I think that's important. You got to get somebody that is going to go and sell this program to the recruit, not necessarily sell it for 1 year and then you can come go with me in a couple years if you're still around.
When we move on to fill in the
and there's
blank.
another point. You brought up the recruitment. And you brought it up with R.J. Davis and the situation with the Tar Heels and the transfer portal being open the way it is. And if I'm unhappy, Coach Houston's gone. He didn't recruit me. So what's my future look like? Well, in that kind of instability in that environment, maybe hiring or promoting, Harrell up so that you feel a little bit better if you were recruited by Houston, or if you're sitting there, unsure of your future. Maybe that's a little bit more stability by having the coach who was already in place as a coordinator.
The entire staff, probably.
Right. I mean, maybe he didn't personally recruit you, but he was part of the team of coaches that you got put into.
Yeah. Well, look at talking about loving the school and whatever, but again, look at Coach K at Duke. He had opportunities to coach the Lakers. He had opportunity
anywhere he wanted
to be
go.
president of the Boston
Absolutely.
Celtics and whatever. He said, "No, I'm saying." I think what he said was he had Duke University stamped in a place that nobody could see, and he was going to stay right there. And it creates a culture.
Yeah.
That you have, John Wooden at UCLA had a culture that he created, and he stayed. Roy Williams his loyalties were obviously like Carolina, but he had a lot of loyalty toward Kansas too. He appreciated the opportunity that he had. Sure. He didn't just jump first time Carolina said, okay. He said, no, I'm coaching Kansas right now. And he could have stayed at Kansas, and the court at Kansas would have been named after Roy Williams too, I think, the program he had going on in Kansas. So I guess the point I'm going, when you're not jumping around, and again, get back to Coach Ruff and McNeil, he was going to stay.
He'd have been there for 30 years.
Yeah, he would stay and loved it, and we would do a good job, and whatever. And an athletic director can come in and mess up more in 2 years. It'll take you 10 or 15 years to fix what they have screwed up.
They said Ruffin wasn't doing winning 6, 7, 8 games and going to bowls wasn't enough. ECU could do better.
Well, that's the thing.
That work out for him.
If you're ECU and you may not be able to admit it, but you're not in a position to suddenly
be a
rise
top
up.
20 team
then,
perennial.
Then what I at least want is somebody there
Right.
who is in it for the long term, who's in it for the culture, who wants to be there, who makes people around him feel good about being there.
Blake Harrell had a 4-game winning streak. Those 4 teams at the end of the year: Temple 3-9, Florida Atlantic 3-9, Tulsa 3-9, North Texas 6-6.
Yeah.
So
those first 3 they would have won regardless.
Mike Houston was there, or Blake Harrell.
Look,
But
right.
did it feel different?
But
it did.
Yeah.
It did. It felt. Look, but go back to you talk about coaching. But here's another thing in college football and in pro football. I think in any level football, high school, Pop Warner, there's one player you can't miss on. You can't miss on a quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
You cannot
the
miss
most
on
important position in sports.
possibly in sports.
In sports.
You're probably right.
Right.
You cannot miss on a quarterback at that level.
Well,
You
Cecil
just can't.
mentioned when Hauser come in,
Completely changed.
You know what
the
was
program.
funny? Houston said all along that Garcia and Heiser were one and the same. We could plug and play either one of them, and it's going to be the same team. That was not correct. He missed out on that.
he picked the wrong person.
He picked the wrong, and then wouldn't come off it. Even Heiser was available for first couple weeks, and he wouldn't come off Garcia.
Yeah.
he wouldn't come off it, and then they put him in. He put him in. For the at the end of a game,
Second half,
and he looked awful. But they missed. Houston was stubborn in that point and missed on Heiser.
Excellent point. When you miss on that position,
You can't miss on
No.
quarterback.
You can't. That's you can't. And you wonder how much it's Hudson, but he also has a quarterback coach. He has an offense coordinator. You wonder how much they play. If you're going to be my quarterback coach or you're going to be my offense coordinator, and you say I should play this kid at quarterback, are you going against what your offense coordinator says, or do they have complete control of the offense? Now having coached basketball pretty much by myself, I can't hardly fathom the idea of having somebody else run my offense.
Yeah.
Or run my defense, or tell me like you need to play so and so the point guard. I'll play who I think I'm going to play.
Bottom line is, Cease, in that situation, it don't matter what your offensive coordinator says or what your quarterback coach says. You're going to be the fall guy.
Right.
You're going to be the fall guy if he don't succeed, which that's what happened.
Well, get back to Carolina. When James Madison scored 70 points against Carolina. That was complete.
Mac was going that day, wasn't he?
Going. Yeah, and I think he said he believed one. But could you why not fire your defense coordinator?
Yeah. Well, that again, I'm not sure that Harold is the right guy. Maybe he is, but East Carolina's defense last year was awful. And guess who the defense coordinator was?
Yeah.
Blake Harold.
Yeah.
But I think that their defense is a little better this year. So I don't know. Maybe he's the right guy. Maybe they get it turned around. It's going to be not before we leave college football. It's going to be interesting to see what Carolina does. For coach, big talk about Kitchen right now. Big talk about the guy from Tulane, Sorrell, I think, or Sorrell, or whatever his name is.
Also, a guy Arthur Smith I think he played at Carolina. He coached the
NFL.
Falcons.
Falcons.
4
Steelers
years or
offensive coordinator.
And I read his dad is rich.
Big donator.
Yeah, big.
That might help with some NIL money.
He is big.
That's what they need.
He's big on Microsoft.
But when they got rid of Mac, and I don't know if there's 10 articles out there about the top 10 candidates. If you're a Carolina fan, did any of those excite you? The names you just mentioned, are any of those? Do you get fired up by any of those names?
I'm not. No.
Yeah, look, Grady Fulcher, big Carolina fan. He sent me.
He's Carteret, play-by-play man.
Yes, love Grady. C-level guy, by the way. Shout out to Grady. So he sent me several messages over the last 3 or 4 weeks, or 2 weeks at least, saying, have you got any connections at Carolina? Who are we going to get? Who we get? And he'll send me an article. Read this, and I keep messing with Grady. Said, I think Jeff Saturday's our guy. Jeff Saturday's going to be the man.
Oh Lord,
and he'll fire back. Man, he's got 1.5 year in the NFL. He don't know anything about being a head coach.
No.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I will say this: they have all of a sudden, Carolina supposedly has freed up money that Mac Bryan did not have access to. Maybe I don't even remember the numbers, but in one of the articles that I read that let's say that Mac had X amount of dollars, the new guy is going to have 3 times as much money as Mac did for
the pockets have been the pockets have been loosened. Huh?
There you go.
Yeah.
Get back to ECU for just say ECU football. Their situation at the conference that they're in, and the schedule that they played this year. I mean, they can win. I mean, this year they could have won 9
no doubt.
games easily.
No doubt.
Easy.
I mean, lost to
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
They were upset. Lost to Charlotte. Charlotte hadn't won a game since East Carolina
fired their coach.
Their coach. Look, they were up 16-0 on. I was sitting in the stands with my wife. They were up 16-0. I remember looking at Janelle and saying, "Man, I hope this game's going to be better than this." I said, we're going to have to leave at halftime because East Carolina's killing them. Next time, it was 21-16 in a matter of minutes. And I was like, so they're up 16-0 on App. Could have beat them easily.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, Jimmy, you mentioned quarterback, and this is a blanket statement that applies to every school in the country. But at ECU, even though you're a kind of a mid-major program, you're kind of like QBU there. When they've been good, they've had good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, the list is long, right? You go back to Jeff Blake, Marcus Crandall, Holton Ahlers,
Shane Cardell,
Shane
Carden. Yeah, Shane Carden.
Even people like Dominic Davis, James Pinckney.
Yeah.
I mean, Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
And to go back to the most recent one, Holton Ahlers. He took a lot of criticism, but gosh knows he proved he was the real deal.
Yeah, for
He's
sure.
a good athlete, and he was a good quarterback for East Carolina. Yeah.
Well, I think the AD was in a no-win situation there. When the interim goes 4-0, you don't have much margin for error there. You kind of got to pick him, don't you?
Yeah.
Because if you don't, and you pick your guy, and it doesn't work out,
then you're going. Yeah.
All you're going to hear the rest of your I was going to say the rest of your career. You're not going to have a very long career. Probably.
You're next.
They're saying you're going because you didn't hire the interim who went 4-0.
Well, and I mean, 1-0. I mean, the North Texas game was really that, and what was it? Navy, Army. Which one was that?
Navy.
Yeah. If he had gone 2-0 with those, obviously that would have been
that's a
little bit more secure. But I mean, those first 3 games were. They felt like wins no matter what.
Yeah.
It's that situation is almost. I watch a lot of Netflix. I watch too much Netflix, I guess, but I watch these documentaries. police documentaries, whatever. But police, if you're like an obvious choice for murder, they're going to really focus on you.
No doubt.
They are really
No doubt.
gonna focus on you. Look, JJ did it. I mean, everything points toward it. We don't
right.
need to look too far. Let's go ahead and get him, and we'll be through with this case or whatever.
We'll wrap this up.
You got a candidate there, like, hey, he's done all right. Let's
won 4 games.
Let's get it him.
Sometimes the easiest choice is the right one.
Yeah, and we don't have to do a search, and we do anything. We'll get him and
Save some money.
and save some
Sure.
time. And
That's right.
Whatever.
Well, the resume is not long; it's 1 year. But I tell you who looks like they did find them a coach, and that's Duke University.
Yes, yeah.
Manny Diaz.
Yeah, Manny, yeah.
9-3,
9.
and nobody talks about him.
Nobody talks about
How long we're going to talk about college football now for 20 minutes? Not mention Duke one time.
Yeah.
9-3. Also, yesterday was signing day, and when it all shakes out, that might be the best recruiting class in Duke history
Ever had.
ever.
Yeah.
So you go 9-3, you produce the best recruiting class in school history. Manny Diaz might have something cooking over there in Durham. We'll see.
Yeah.
And if he's got something cooking, he probably won't be there.
Well, that's the sad thing about our area, right? If ECU,
Stepping stones.
like Zach said, ECU, if the guy's going to leave in 5 years or something, or
The former coach of Duke, Elko, was that his name? He
didn't last long, did he?
He's at Texas A&M,
Right.
And winning.
and making lots and lots.
At the schools we root for, you want a coach to do good, but not too good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Give us a little bit of promise and then get humbled until you say.
Let's win 8 wins. Let's not win 9 or 10 wins.
JJ, before we leave college sports, I got to tell Cecil this because obviously it's something that he is, and I haven't shared this with him, and we talk regularly. But I had an opportunity for fall baseball, not to change, but it's all related to NIL. Do some fall baseball at East Carolina, and I basically scheduled their fall baseball, sent umpires there, and got to talk to Cliff a lot. And Cliff called me the last.
Recently engaged Cliff Godwin.
The recently engaged. Good for him. I sent him a text congratulating him. Yeah, so good for him. But he said, now this is going to blow your mind. He got talking to. He was a little bit frustrated with the situation, I think. But he said that now coaching college sports, he said literally 90% of his time is dealing with NIL or transfer portal. He said 10% is actually on-field instruction and on the field. He says, I have to depend on my staff. He said, you would not believe what goes on with NIL and transfer portal. That's crazy.
And I think if college sports is the way it was 10 years ago, Roy Williams is probably still coaching, and Nick Saban is probably still coaching.
Well, you know what then? So, again, this takes you back to the Harrell hire where maybe it works out because you mentioned that the defense the year before wasn't great. Maybe your head coach in this climate these days is not your X's and O's guy. Maybe he's your leadership, your people person,
CEO.
the glue guy. Yeah, sort of keeping everything.
Well, look, I think that's why Ruff was so good.
You lean on your
I think
coordinators.
Ruff surrounded himself with great people.
There you go.
And I think Ruff, if he was sitting here beside Cecil right now, I think he would tell you that he's not the XO guy. You know, he's the guy that go in and going to eat collard greens with your mama and get you to come to East Carolina.
There you go.
Personality.
Going to get you to come to East Carolina, and then I'm going to turn you over to
Somebody will coach you up.
Exactly.
If you remember, Coach Ruff, I think the first hire that he made at East Carolina was he hired Lincoln Riley. Who was 26 years old, had never been a coordinator, and Coach Ruff had worked with him at Texas Tech. And, again, recognized talent. Like, this guy is an offensive genius. I'm going to take him. And he was like, you're hiring this young guy that has never been a coordinator, and you're going to put him in charge of offense? Yeah, I'm going to do that.
I made the joke one time at the end of the year when they got rid of Mike Houston. I said, well, if you be patient, hold on, you might get Lincoln Riley to come back. He didn't kill it at USC this year, did he? No. 6-6 with the Trojans.
Yeah. Well, now it's the little brother that's out there,
Garrett
right?
Riley, yeah.
Yeah, that was somebody that
Maceo.
people thought maybe ECU was going to...
Yeah, Maceo was talking about him.
Yeah, looking at him.
Sure. Yeah. He's a defense coordinator at Clemson.
Offensive.
Offensive
coordinator
at Clemson.
And that was somebody that with ties, obviously, to the program. Sure.
Interesting.
We'll talk a little football on the professional level. I know that Jimmy, that's your bread and butter there. You love, especially with your Cowboys. You're super excited about them right now.
4 straight 12-win seasons.
We got just a handful of games left. You got the Chiefs, who are winning every game by 1 point. You got the Lions, who are the best season in the history of the franchise, but like half the defense has gotten hurt. The Bills are surging. Kansas City's 11-1. Detroit's 11-1. Bills are 10-2. The Eagles are surging. They're 10-2. The Vikings that nobody talks about are 10-2.
With Sam Darnold.
With Sam Darnold, former Carolina Panthers quarterback. The Steelers, who Russell Wilson looks like he's found the fountain of youth. They're 9-3. They're winning every week. The Packers are 9-3. What's our take on the NFL, and what do we think the playoffs and Super Bowl will look like?
So, two teams or three teams that really stick out to me. One, the Eagles are playing really good. I think
Saquon Barkley would have looked good in a Cowboys helmet this year,
wouldn't
wouldn't
he?
he?
Good with a star on it.
Yeah.
So that just
And the Giants fans are probably saying he'd look good with a Giants helmet
that
on.
just goes to show you how bad organization Giants are.
Woo!
That all these years they
chose
couldn't.
Daniel Jones.
True. So anyway,
Over
I think the Eagles are looking really good. Sirianni, they want to fire him, and now he's the second coming. So I think they're good. I think what's going to be important, and you mentioned it. It's going to be really important for Detroit to get a bye, to win and get a bye to get healthy.
Yeah.
I think Detroit's the type of team that can go. They're that old school smash mouth type football. They're going to be able to go play in the cold, but I think it's going to benefit them if they get that week off and be able to play in Detroit. Green Bay's really good right now, but to me, this year's got to be Josh Allen's year for the Bills. I think he is that good. I think he's a good quarterback. Other than the Cowboys, the Buffalo Bills has had the best offense in pro football for the last 5 or 6 years.
Sure.
They as far as putting up points,
right?
But
it's the playoffs.
Playoffs,
It's like the Ravens.
But you know what? And you go back, the Chiefs, they won every game by a field goal or some fluke play.
No matter how bad the team is, right?
No matter how bad.
Yeah.
But look, I think Cecil told me a long time ago, we were talking about a pitcher in the big leagues by the name of Anthony Young who lost. He was like 0-11 one year, but you still got to be pretty good to be in the big leagues, to be 0-11 or whatever.
Right.
Somebody keeps handing
Somebody keeps giving you a paycheck every week, don't they, Cecil?
So but that's Patrick Mahomes. They just know how to win. They just figure out how to win.
Enough.
They do enough to win. So, do you bet against the Chiefs? It's hard to bet against Chiefs, but I think it's going to come down to Detroit, Eagles, and the Bills is my three picks.
How about the all-time tortured fan base Super Bowl of Buffalo versus Detroit?
Wow, that'd be awesome.
Wouldn't that you would root for both? You want both of them to win because those four fan bases, but for Detroit, either one of those fan bases to get a Super Bowl would be phenomenal.
Yeah, you got to like Dan Campbell for the Detroit Lions. That's just old school. Players love to play for him. Just I think he does a good job there.
Is it just me? Well, I think it was last Sunday night. I called April, my wife, and I said, "Come here, you got to see this." And she says, "What?" I said, "Football. They're playing football in the snow."
Oh, these snow games.
Snow games are great, aren't they? Fun.
Oh, he texted me the Browns.
The Cleveland.
He said, "Are you watching?" He said, "Turn it on right now." I said, "Oh, I don't know. That's why. Turn it on." Oh my goodness! And of course, at the center of a couple of those is one of the most entertaining players in the league right now, Mr. Jameis Winston.
Oh my God, the best
who
soundbite.
continues to be
5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Yeah, whatever it was.
Look, I'll take it. I want it to be entertained, and that's as good as it gets.
497 yards.
He is one of I mean, there's a small group
A lot of good and a lot of bad.
Yeah, I mean, he's up there numbers wise with some really big names.
Elite quarterbacks. Yeah.
Well, I said this is the 4th time for the Bleacher Seats boys, but it's been 8 months, so we need to have you on more. We need to have you on a quarterly basis.
Wow.
We skipped one of the quarters there. So the last time we had on was pre-baseball season, so we did our World Series predictions. Zach decided to take a bye on that, which was good because the three of us that made World Series predictions didn't do very good. So Jimmy Paler picked the Baltimore Orioles to win it all. Cecil Lilly picked the Atlanta Braves to win it all. And J.J. Smith picked the Philadelphia Phillies to win it all. Not only did we not pick the winner, not only did we not pick a team that was in the World Series, we didn't pick a team that was in the League Championship Series. So we really killed it there.
Well, I think the Dodgers and the Yankees were too obvious.
Yeah,
So,
we wanted to go off the beaten path a little bit.
But look, talking about baseball, is it not amazing that when the right team gets hot and the right player gets hot, he can carry a baseball team? And that's pretty much what Freddie Freeman did with the Dodgers in the World Series. I mean, what a and look, Freddie Freeman's a feel good story, don't you think? I mean, just I don't care if you like the Dodgers or not, you got to like Gotta like Freddie Freeman. So yeah, I was glad for him. Not glad for the Dodgers, but glad for Freddie Freeman and what they've done.
It's hard to root for the Dodgers,
Yeah,
ain't
hard
it?
to root for them. Yeah.
One thing that is so important in sports, whether football, basketball, baseball, is keeping your players healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, the Braves had a bunch of injuries, and I think in professional sports like football, you got to keep your players somehow on the field. And it seems like in all sports we have more, knowledge as far as preventing athletic injuries, but we still have a lot of big names going out, with the injuries. Jacksonville quarterback that played at Clemson, he's just Lawrence. He just went out with an injury, and it's tough. If you go see the Chiefs play, you won't see Mahomes play.
No doubt.
Yeah. Absolutely.
15 years since Cecil's Yankees has won a World Series.
Wow. Thanks.
Will it be 16 or will they get that one next year? I guess Juan Soto will make a difference wherever he goes, won't he?
Oh yeah, he'll make a difference. I was telling Jimmy on the way. I don't like the whole Soto thing. I don't like the way that I don't like Boris, Scott Boris, his agent. But just going around and doing a little, tell me what you're going to do for me. He's interviewing with his clubs. What
are you going to do for me?
What are you going to do for me? Are you going to surround me with this and this and what? I mean, here's what I'll give you, and if you want to play, let's play. If you don't, and tell me, JJ and Jimmy, they refer. This is a term used a lot now. They say he's a generational talent. What generation are they referring to? Are they referring to my generation? Because in my generation, I've seen Ted Williams and Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris and Henry Aaron. I've seen a bunch of players. He's a good baseball player. And I was telling Jimmy, when Francisco Lindor is healthy, would you rather have Lindor or would you rather have Soto? They could both hit 40 home runs and knock in 100 runs, and Lindor can play shortstop. Soto is an average right fielder. To say he's a generational – now, Aaron Judge is a generational talent. Anytime you hit over 50 home runs 3 times and an MVP a couple times, and that puts yourself in a pretty elite class. 40 home runs, a 288 batting average of 40 home runs and 100 RBIs, there are players that can do that.
Yeah, especially if you can get Lindor and a couple of starting pitchers to go along with him. I mean, that'll go a long ways.
That'll go a long way.
It's hard to imagine paying that kind of money and just getting one player for that price. But hey, somebody will pay him. Somebody's going to give him that money.
Cohen, the owner of the Mets, has already said that he will pay $50 million more than anybody else makes him. So I get to me, like we're talking, take that money and split it up and see if you can get some pitchers and some relief pitchers and a middle infielder and a third baseman. The Yankees went into the World Series. They played a guy, John Birdie, on first base that had never played first base before. Ever played first base before. After July 31st, the Yankees' first baseman never hit a home run.
Zero.
I
told you about it. Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, that is
which at one time a first baseman, a third baseman, that was your power, and left fielder, that was your power hitter, right?
Yeah. Your corner infielder.
Corner infielders were your power. Yeah.
If they could, particularly first baseman, if you could catch it a little bit, that was a plus.
Yeah.
A few items to hit on baseball. Are Dodgers fans don't think this, but are the Dodgers bad for baseball?
Dodger fans, like you said, Dodger fans, you're talking about with the money they can spend.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do they call the Milwaukee's?
I guess in college terms it'd be mid-major program, right?
Well, they call it
small market teams.
It's the Dodgers are bad for them. That people that can't go spend money, Detroit's and they can't go spend money. But it's again, you talk about Los Angeles, probably one of the biggest. The Dodgers, probably one of the biggest markets in professional. Them and the Yankees, biggest markets in professional sports or professional baseball. So the money's there.
Yeah, and some of the small market teams, I think they use that as an excuse. They all make money.
Yeah,
and some of the small market owners don't want to spend money; they want to put the money in their pocket instead of. Speaking of spending money, my nephew Jake that I've talked about Jimmy all the time. Anyway, he's on a business trip to New York City and has the opportunity. He's a Yankee fan, and he has the opportunity to see the 5th game of the World Series.
Nice.
Okay, at Yankee Stadium, got a seat in the right field bleachers, right beside the bleacher creatures there and whatever. And this is the 5th game. Ticket prices had gone down some. What do you think is the ticket was?
It's going down.
Who can get the closest?
300, 350. Keep going. 500. Oh my gosh.
1,200.
They were originally 1,500, and he got it for 900.
Wow.
I said, did you get popcorn? And Ray said, I didn't get anything. I just got my
Well, that's a perfect segue, Cecil, to my next question. Is Juan Soto, they're talking 500 million, 600 million, kind of in that range. We're not that far off from a professional athlete getting a $1 billion career contract and making annually $100 million a year. Sports never fades popularity-wise. It only gets more popular, it feels like, my entire lifetime. NFL is more popular than it's ever been. NBA is getting more popular, maybe not ratings-wise, but globally, because basketball is a global sport. Hockey, now you got F1 is popular now. People don't ever lose their love for sports. But at some point, if a guy's making $1 billion and he's making $100 million a year, and you see these ESPN stats where it breaks it down, where this is how much he makes for every completion or made basket. At some point, the people be like, I can't watch somebody make $100 million a year playing sports.
Yeah. Well, now
at some point, do we check out a little bit?
I think now that you can bet on it,
that
maybe not.
Oh, that because now we got money in it. Yeah,
out of this, which changes the narrative a little bit. But you're right. I mean, I don't know if it's the gap between what they make and what the average Joe makes has certainly gotten wider and wider.
I think you're right. I think that there's some old school people that don't understand that type of money and will not watch it. But I think for the true fan, maybe we might complain about it, but we're still going to turn it on and be entertained by it.
Yeah, I think it's the same way as watching a movie. I mean, how much is that actor's salary? How much does that impact your ability to enjoy and watching a movie?
That's true.
You know, you may see an article that says, "Wow, they made that much for that movie. Wow, that's incredible." But when I go to the theater and I'm sitting there and it's on and I'm watching it, I'm not thinking about that. And I think it's the same thing if if Michael Jordan is throwing it down, I don't care how much he's making in that moment. I'm just entertained.
I agree, Zach. Because when I'm watching ball games, I don't sit there and think, well, he ought to have made that play. He's making this kind of money. I'm like, well, that's a sweet play. That is nice.
Right.
I like to see that. Whatever.
Zach, you just brought up a great point. The entertainment business is crazy. The money in the entertainment business is not. You think about it, and
you crave distraction, man.
You talked about it. I read the other day about the actors on Yellowstone. Even the no-name actors are making $750,000 episode, or $1 million. So who knows what Kevin Costner's making for what he made for one episode of So entertainment it entertains us.
Apparently, we're happy to pay it, right?
That's the thing. We're happy to do it.
We're happy to pay it,
Absolutely.
and we're happy to pay it, and it's
our money that's paying these people, right?
It's got to be our money. Yeah.
What's the lowest guy on an NFL roster making?
I mean, $500,000 probably
a year. We don't know his name.
Rookie salary is $500,000.
Yeah, something like that.
Same thing there. Where I mean, we don't even. It's a non-factor. We don't see that person. We don't care about them, but yet they're part of the machine.
Cecil mentioned documentaries. We're loving to watch documentaries on Netflix. One of the best documentaries I've ever seen is on Toots Shore. He was a saloon keeper in New York City in the 40s and 50s. Yeah. And one line from it was, you could see a sports writer sitting next to the Yankees player, and the sports writer was making as much money as the Yankees player was
back in the day,
back in the 40s and 50s. Yeah,
there was
that started to change in the 70s and 80s, and you talk about the gap again, and now the gap is
you guys are getting closer together, I think.
I was reading about World Series shares the other day, and I was thinking about Yogi Berra, who I think won 8 or 10 championships with the Yankees, and they were talking about what kind of World Series ring that they were going to get, and Yogi asked, could I get maybe like a washing machine to dry? So my wife is tired of me getting these rings and whatever. And the payout for the Yankees and the Dodgers got right at, and they didn't make quite as much this year for whatever, but they were $497,000 for the winning team, the Dodgers, and the Yankees got like $385,000 a piece.
Well, how about Roy Williams? Those stories he tells about how when he was assistant and he would drive to the mountains back and forth Chapel Hill to sell calendars for the Tar Heels because he wasn't making no money.
It's crazy.
That wasn't 100 years ago.
Would sports be better if these athletes weren't making that kind of money?
I just think
so.
at some point there's a blowback, but I guess not. Like I said, sports never gets less popular; it only gets more.
It would be a blowback if sports stopped, if the athletes got slower, if they jumped not as high.
We're happy to be entertained as long as you continue to do things to amaze us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And not just that, but sure, there's a couple people here and there that go past what the normal human capability is, but those human capabilities have gotten better
Yeah.
over the last 50 years. People do run faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I can remember you're talking about a $1 billion ball player or whatever.
It's coming.
When there was 5 players in Major League Baseball that made the first to make $100,000 a year, and everybody said that's it. Nobody's going to make more than $100,000. That was Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays and a guy named Frank Howard, who was a big power hitter.
Yeah.
And whatever. Well, and then Catfish Hunter signs as a free agent, and he gets like $3 million for 4 years. And they thought, well, that's as high as it's going to get. And it's like you said, when is it going to stop? I don't know. One thing that has helped is this media. I mean, when I was growing up, again, you saw a baseball game on Saturday.
Monday Night Baseball.
Well, Monday night that was
way after.
That was really way back. We got to see it on Monday night. As far as like being able to see a baseball game every night, to be able to get extra Major League Baseball extra innings channel and have baseball games on all the time, and all the games are on, and so they're selling advertisements, so there's more money coming in, and whatever. So
well, and not to get too philosophical about it, but I wonder how much a role is being played by how these teams and these athletes and coaches treat money as far as we see it. So like you talked about earlier, athletic programs eating the cost of cutting a coach early out of a contract. It's no big deal.
Don't
Okay.
care.
$10 million, whatever, no big deal. Who's the quarterback for the Raiders that took this big heavy rookie deal and then just stopped playing?
Jamarcus
Russell.
Sure, we hated him for it, but
Right.
it was gone in an instant, and we don't really care. So, and they certainly didn't seem to care that much. So,
Let's talk about what our feelings are, and I think I know what our feelings are based on Jimmy and Cecil being old school guys, traditional guys. What do we think about the golden at bat, where you can basically substitute the best hitter anytime you want, and he can hit anytime he wants?
Well, we know how Cecil feels about it. him being a traditionalist. I think some things are good for the game. If you want to talk about the pitch clock and throwing over to first base and the pickoff moves, they've been great for baseball and speeding up the game. But things like that you're talking about with the golden at bat, I'm too much of a traditionalist to want to change that. I don't think the fans want to see it. I think that's just something that he wants to maybe generate some interest, but the interest is there.
real quick, for those who don't know what it is, what are we talking about exactly with the golden at bat?
You can designate a player to take an at bat for any player in the lineup one time in the game.
Okay. Okay.
Presumably your best hitter.
Yeah, I would think
So basically, like Cecil made an example. So you Volt. What's the shortstop for Yang?
Volpe, yeah.
So he's a number 9 hitter. You got runners on second and third with one out, but you can bring up Aaron Judge one time a game to hit, or Soto to hit for Volpe one time a game, and that's your golden at bat. But again, you made a good point that now they walked Judge intentionally, and now we got a runner on third base, and now Judge is on third, and Judge, it's your at bat again, so you need to come on up here and hit again. I don't understand.
I was telling my daughter Ryan about it. Of course, she's been around me a long time, and she knows how I am. And she said, "Dad, that would really mess up the record books, wouldn't it?" I said, "Oh my goodness!"
Oh wow!
Yeah,
what a point!
You get Aaron Judge or Ohtani or whatever. You get. How many times it happened during the season? Maybe 100 times.
Yeah.
You get 100 extra at bats and end up getting 15 or 20 more home runs.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, that's
or RBIs, extra 100 RBIs. Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
back in the day, they put an asterisk by Roger Maris's 61 home run because he hit it in 162 games instead of
Played an extra
154.
game, right?
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
played extra games or whatever, and it took forever to get that asterisk removed. And but that would, my goodness, that would add all kinds of at bats and whatever.
Well, that's kind of what I hate about the 17-game schedule now in the NFL. Records aren't records anymore.
You know, I'm glad all this happened, and this is a little inside joke between us four that all this happened. We just had a little mishap here, but you know, you brought up Roger Maris. We got to talk about Pete Rose, do we not?
Oh, my gosh.
And in closing, we got to mention him. You mentioned Roger Maris and his record, and you know, Pete passed away, and
Pete.
you know, it's. I still think Pete was great for the game, even though he committed some crimes. Maybe Biden will pardon him on his way out, and he'll be able to go in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he had some, again, all-time hitter, but he had some significant shortcomings.
Yes, yeah, maybe a couple.
Yeah.
Well, if you were a Hall of Fame voter, Jimmy, would you vote him in?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. Now I would.
How about now, after posthumously?
Wow.
How about that big word? And I went East Carteret.
Wow. Would you vote him in, Cecil?
No.
You still would not vote him in. You don't think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame?
You don't bet
As
on
a player.
You don't bet on baseball, do you, Cecil?
As a
well,
player.
You don't bet on your own team.
You don't bet on anything.
Don't bet on baseball
No, you don't,
when you're playing.
I mean, that's a rule. You know that's a rule.
That's a big-time rule. That's a big-time rule.
There's a lot of sins you could commit. You can't commit that one.
Hey, look, from my...
You have to protect the integrity of the game. When we watch a ball game, when we watch the fifth inning of the World Series, we have to believe that Aaron Judge misplayed that fly ball. Nobody he
paid
was
him
not
off.
paying him off on whatever. You had to be able to believe that field goal kickers when they come in and they miss that chip shot from 25 yards.
When a ref gives a defensive pass interference when the Chiefs are driving down the field, sure, I want to believe that it's real.
So to Cecil's point, and I know I've talked about this several times probably on this podcast, but I can't stress this enough. Me being 18 years old and getting in professional baseball, going into the New York Penn League, you walk into that stadium in short A baseball, it is all over the players' locker room and all over the umpire's locker room, a big whatever it is, and it lists the rule about gambling and gambling on baseball.
You can't do it.
It's
Well,
everywhere.
look at
It's everywhere.
Look at the two NBA players that dabbled in a little bit, and they got expelled for life, right?
Whoa.
How about the referee?
Calvin Ridley got what? He messed around.
There you go.
Yeah.
The whole year.
Same
Yeah.
thing.
He's back. Yeah.
And even people say, well, he bet on his own team. Can't do it.
Don't matter.
Yeah, because if you're betting on your team, you bet on your team to win. Well, that sounds all right. But when you don't bet on your team, those bookies know, hey, he's not betting. They don't bet on them today because he's not putting any bets on them. So, you know, you're betting on
I'll
it
tell you what,
every day.
that's smart right there.
Well,
You old farmer boy from Bath, that's knowledge right there. I see, I never even thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But look, let's
Jimmy, you separate the two is what you're doing.
yeah.
There's the
So
player,
let's
there's the
let's
off the
agree to disagree that Pete Rose is a great hitter, great baseball player.
yeah.
Okay,
I put
all right.
a thing for him in the Hall of Fame.
All right.
Hits leader.
and leave it leave it at that.
How do you not compare it a little bit though to and I'm not a baseball guy, so correct me if I'm wrong, but Barry Bonds was a great player before he dabbled in what he dabbled in, and he is still eligible.
I know the
Pittsburgh made him
people on
a
this
Hall of Famer.
podcast are not going to be able to relate to this, but let me just tell you about Barry Bonds.
me
Great
about
baseball
it.
player. I had Barry Bonds in the low minor leagues. I saw him play. His head was about as big as Cecil's microphone. After he got on steroids, his head was as big as my microphone.
Too bad we're not on video right now.
Too bad we're not on video to see this, but steroids definitely enhanced his home run hitting ability.
But was he a great player before it?
I don't.
Would he have been in the Hall of Fame without it?
So that's what I was going to.
Yeah,
I was
I think
going.
he
Would you put him in now?
No.
No, I wouldn't put him in now.
He's eligible.
I wouldn't put him in now because of what he did. But you got to put an asterisk on that whole steroid era. But gosh knows, it was fun, wasn't it? It wasn't fun to watch him hit.
That's what brings us right back to the entertainment of the golden at bat. Is what's more fun to see a 9-hitter who's been struggling suddenly hit a home run and wow, look, we're all impressed at what he was able to pull out, or do we want to see Aaron Judge go in there and work his magic? What's more entertaining?
I've talked to y'all about this, but I came up with Sammy Sosa and Juan Gonzalez on the same same Texas Rangers minor league system. When I say that Sammy Sosa was not as big as a popcorn fart, he was small. I mean, 180-pound skinny kid, but
by the time he left,
I mean, he was a great home run hitter.
Sure.
Yep. So I can talk about entertainment. I can remember in 1971, Ron Bloomberg stepped up to the plate, and he became the first designated hitter in baseball. I can't imagine baseball being played now without a designated hitter. And it bothered me that we went for years and just had a designated hitter in the American League, and the National League didn't have it. For one thing, when you started interleague play, that was a disadvantage. For the American League to have their hitters, the pitchers hit. Point being, would you rather watch Aaron Judge be the designated hitter and hit, or would you rather watch a pitcher go up? Of course, he wouldn't strike out 3 times now because they only pitched 5 innings, but pitchers would strike out. But they would strike out. I mean, they couldn't hit and didn't make any bones about it. Just a handful of good hitting pitchers in the history of baseball. So it's more entertaining to me people say, well, that's not real baseball. It's not traditional, but it's pretty good baseball.
Well, there's a spectrum between really traditional baseball and Savannah Banana Ball.
Right.
And as long as we make changes that protect the integrity, for the most part, of traditional baseball, I think they should be welcome, because otherwise changes are going to come and they may not be as
But like
traditional.
you said, Jimmy, the pitch clock, that was a good
move.
Yeah, that was a good change.
Great change. Great change.
Larger bases.
The larger bases helped with stolen bases this year. That was a good one. I don't think people are big fans of the starting on second base in the extra innings, are they?
Umpires are really big fans of it.
Well,
you want to go home.
We're really big fans. We're pushing for it hard.
But you're talking about another big change coming. You said the computer basically is going to make the calls.
I tell you what else is you're going to see. It started this year in college baseball is two first bases. Have a first base that the runners hit and a first base that the first baseman. So they're basically 2 bases right side by side. The first baseman stands on the first baseman touches the base.
What is happening right now?
What's
what are you talking about?
Are you,
did you take something before you came in? Are you serious?
I've never heard of
What's
this.
happening?
No.
Oh, they've had that in softball for
real.
a long time.
It's real.
Where is
cut
the
back
first,
on the entries?
And geographically, the runners is in the inside?
You got a base on the foul line that the base runner hits.
Yes.
And then you got a base right beside that.
When you say beside it, you mean outside?
Inside the playing field.
Yep.
Inside the playing field.
This is the first I've ever heard of this.
Yep. Inside the playing field that the first baseman touches.
So they're not
like that.
To clear the lane.
Right.
Yeah,
like
so
that,
you're
like
basically this is a base, that's a base. The base runner's running this way, he hits this base, the first baseman's foot's on this base.
But that throw is shorter now.
By 18 inches.
They've had that in fast pitch
Softball for a while.
What?
Wow. Yeah.
Where have we been?
I've had that for a while.
So is that to protect somebody from stepping on breaking an ankle or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
But getting back to the starting runner on second base, surprisingly, you probably spoke, but I like it.
Oh.
I like it. It's like overtime in basketball.
Let's
get
college
after
football where they start on the 20 or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah,
I tell you what it does.
Move it along.
It puts strategy in it, because
that's exactly what I was gonna say.
if I've coached third base, got a runner on second, I'm gonna flash. Am I going to bunt him? Probably I'm going to bunt him to third. Now, they don't do it anymore because everybody's trying to hit home run. But it's right away. Instead of watching somebody pitch 5 or 6 more innings and strike out a bunch of people and nothing happens, boom, you've got it right there.
It's the end of a game. People are tired. We're not going to get the best of everybody at that point, so why not mix a little strategy in there?
Absolutely.
I totally agree.
I agree, yeah.
But kudos for bringing up Pete Rose, Jimmy, because when it comes to the top 10 most interesting characters in baseball history, he's definitely that top 10 list, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The
hit king.
The hit king.
He just bet on baseball. That was it.
I was.
Well, that weren't it.
That's it.
That weren't it. But that was one of the
That was the public tipping point.
When Pete Rose passed away, one of the sports writers who I really like talked about the first time he met Pete Rose as a rookie. Maybe it's Costas, I can't remember. But anyway, he said around the batting cage, and he never talked to Pete Rose. And NCAA playoffs were going, and said Rose came out of the batting cage and said, "You watching the basketball?" And he said, "Yeah, hey, the boy are killing me. They're missing free throws at the end of the game. my points are messing me up. They need to start making free throws. These teams want." So he was betting on colleges. basketball right then. That was pretty well.
He had the taste for it, didn't he?
Yeah.
He had a.
He wouldn't fare well these days with FanDuel account and ESPN Bet and then MGM and right on his fingertips at his phone.
Yeah, I think I wish I had nerve enough to bet, because I watch games. And you can see things. I would have bet you if you and I had been watching the Panthers play, if somebody would have bet us, I would have bet most any of mine that they were going to find a way to lose that game. So I said, I'm going to do that, whatever. But you see, just watch enough of it that you see things that just,
Yeah.
If he
Yeah,
strikes out,
if
that's going to do this or that.
Well, on PTI last night, Michael Wilbon talked about the golden at bat. He said, we've got that thing already. It's called pinch hitting.
Yeah, exactly. Rusty Staubs invented that a long time ago.
Yeah.
He also said, to compare that to NBA, he said that would be like at the end of the game, the other team fouling Draymond Green, and he goes to the foul line, and we say, no, we want to put Steph Curry
We
in
want
there.
Curry to shoot free
Yeah,
throws. Yeah.
that'd be interesting.
Why not? Look.
Well, I don't want to finish on this note, but we're talking about Pete Rose and whether he should make the Hall of Fame and Barry Bonds. But how about this? The senior committee, NFL Hall of Fame, the NFL has this group of players they propose every year to make the Hall of Fame. But then the senior committee had this group that maybe has been overlooked. Guys that should be in maybe, but they didn't get in. People like Sterling Sharp, like he's one of the senior committee groups that's been nominated this year. Mike Holmgren. So there's a guy named Jim Tyrer, who was an offensive tackle for the Chiefs in the 60s and the 70s. Talk about controversy. He killed his wife and then himself in 1980. But the senior committee voters and his family members have lobbied hard publicly for his induction. How about voting that guy into the Hall of Fame?
That was worse than Pete Rose.
That's a lot worse than Pete
That's a lot
Rose.
worse than Pete
But
Rose.
the question that you have is,
Do you separate?
a 44-year-old crime at this point for a player that played 60 years
Did it have
ago?
anything to do with him playing football?
Now you're getting into cancel culture a little bit, where something that's not connected to what you do for a living maybe brings down your career a little bit.
They say Ty Cobb was about the most
That was
miserable.
next thing I was
Is
gonna
that what you were
say.
going to say?
If you would investigate Ty Cobb's life, you'd probably find out that I don't know that he killed anybody. But
Don't make no dispersions.
But his mother killed his father. She said he was trying to crawl in a window. He had been out on a particular night at a local tavern and had a real good time, so they said. But he's trying to crawl in the window, and they didn't get along real good anyway. And the wife said she thought it was an intruder.
Stand your ground.
Yeah, she thought it was an intruder, so she shot and killed him and whatever. And that kind of shaped Ty Cobb's life there.
Who apparently was not an amazing human being.
Yeah. He was
Amazing baseball player.
Yeah, amazing baseball player.
Yeah.
It's interesting these how do we choose who gets in, who doesn't? O.J. Simpson's still in the Hall of Fame, I guess.
Oh, was he already in before?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, he was in.
He hasn't been taken off. I'm sure he's not prominently displayed. His bus is probably not at the front door there at Canton, but
he's not guilty.
I don't think. Well, that's also true. Yeah, he didn't do it.
Well, I think it's not even his Hall of Fame. I think when Reggie Bush had to give back his Heisman, same that kind of deal where it's like, I mean, he got a little help, but it didn't make him run faster necessarily.
No. All right. Well, I think we've covered that about as much as we can cover it. That's on a high note, talking about murderers and racists and sports bettors and stuff. Trying to get into the Hall of Fame.
No, but thank you to the Bleacher Seats boys for being here for a fourth straight time. We have a couple repeat guests on here, and it's nice.
They're at the top of the
absolutely.
club there.
Well, I look, I'm going to speak for Cecil here now, and we enjoy it a lot. We really do. And it's always when I call Cecil and JJ always reach out to me and say, hey, can you guys do Paperboys? And I'll immediately reach out to Cecil, and there's never a hesitation. Yeah, we'll do it tomorrow. Yeah, so we thank you for
Thank you.
for
We miss Rodney.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
anytime you get a chance to talk sports with the people that love sports like you do, that's a good time.
Thank y'all.